My name is David Hundeyin. I'm an investigative journalist from Nigeria, and I'm constrained to send out this public appeal to the Ghanaian government, to the Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo, the Ghanaian Minister of the Interior, Honorable Ambrose Dele, and to the Chair of the Ghana Refugee Board, Prof. Kenneth Atafua. I fled Nigeria in 2020, and I applied for asylum in Ghana in early 2021. In May 2022, I was granted refugee status in Ghana. Consequently, I was also issued a Ghanaian refugee travel document, a refugee passport, which I have subsequently used extensively to travel across Africa and around the world. Now, last month, when there was the ongoing back and forth between those who wanted to go to war within the ECOWAS bloc, those who wanted to go to war with the coup regime in Niger, and those who didn't, something happened. The Nigerian president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, made a move to deploy Nigerian special forces illegally into Nigerian territory to enforce a no-fly zone, which is a euphemism for essentially staging a military attack, an unprovoked military attack against an independent sovereign nation and a friendly country to Nigeria. As was expected, most people in the Nigerian government, in the Nigerian military, and in the citizenry at large weren't at all on board with this. But Mr. Tinubu was clearly desperate to start this war with Niger, a war that nobody wanted. Subsequently, a secret document was leaked to me, a document which contained attack instructions and staging plans for this illegal invasion of Niger. And I knew that by putting this document out, I could potentially stop a catastrophic invasion, which would lead to an immense and unnecessary loss of West African life. So that's exactly what I did. Early August, I put out this document. And it had the desired effect. It did, in fact, stop the invasion. Subsequently, Mr. Tinubu then tried to seek permission from Nigeria's Senate to deploy the Nigerian military into Niger. The Senate knocked this back. And to all intents and purposes, the invasion essentially became a stillbirth, right? It didn't happen. Which, from the point of view of, I think, any right-thinking person in the ECOWAS sub-region, was definitely a good outcome, right? What definitely under no circumstances should have happened should have been a military invasion of Niger by Nigeria, leading to an outcome that no one would have been better off. Well, I could spend an hour explaining the many different ways that this would have been a terrible idea, but I'm sure most people know this just as well as I do. It would have been something that would have been catastrophic and would have benefited nobody except probably Mr. Tinubu himself. Now, after I leaked this document, I was made aware from several sources that the Nigerian military establishment and the Nigerian intelligence establishment became essentially particularly enraged with me. So I've been a person of interest for a long time, but with that I became designated as something of an enemy of state. And as fortune or luck, bad luck would have it, just a month before this happened, the fact that I do travel with a Ghanaian passport, that I have a Ghanaian passport and I travel with it, had become exposed to the public through no fault of my own, following a very unfortunate event in Zimbabwe, after which the permanent secretary at the Zimbabwean Ministry of Information, probably thinking that he was scoring a point against some sort of foreign journalists, following their issues with foreign journalists, decided to tweet to a global audience the fact that I did claim asylum in Ghana and that I travel with a Ghanaian travel document. As a result of this, the Nigerian establishment knew who to speak to if they wanted to get a hold of me. They were aware that I had claimed asylum in Ghana and that I used a Ghanaian travel document. So I was informed that a Nigerian intelligence agency, I'm not sure whether it was the National Intelligence Agency or the Defense Intelligence Agency, but one of these foreign intelligence institutions dispatched a jet to Accra to basically have me illegally rendered to Nigeria. Apparently, they wrote a letter to the Ghanaian government accusing me of apparently aiding terrorism by supposedly revealing the locations of soldiers, and apparently I was also guilty of treason, whatever that means. Now, it seemed as if the matter was going to end there. But more recently, I've come to find out that the Tinubu government is still trying very hard to enact some sort of illegal rendition. So the latest tactic apparently is to lean on the Ghanaian government and accuse me of having apparently sabotaged an ECOWAS mission, and in so doing, basically compromised the bloc security of the ECOWAS region, in which case Ghana, being itself an ECOWAS member, is then obligated to cancel my asylum, to revoke my refugee status, and to revoke my Ghanaian passport. The Nigerian government's hope is that in revoking my passport, whatever travel privileges or visa or residency privileges I enjoy anywhere in the world will be compromised, and as a result, it will then be more possible for them, using the various avenues that are available to obviously a nation state, to have somebody extradited or to have somebody illegally rendered. In this case, a journalist who fled the country because of his work and claimed political asylum in another country and gained full refugee status. But the Nigerian government obviously has no problem trying to flout international law in this way. Now, the reason I'm making this appeal publicly to the Ghanaian government and to the individuals I mentioned at the outset is because I'm aware that even though the Ghanaian government, as I mentioned, has a very relatively great track record when it comes to obeying international law and not behaving obnoxiously in the international space, which was why I chose to claim asylum in Ghana in the first place. I'm also aware that there's a limit to which Ghana might be able to resist the cajoling or the bullying of Nigeria, which obviously exerts a lot of influence over the Ghanaian government. So I thought it would be prudent to put this out there. I know that the Nigerian government is trying to do all of this in secret, which is why I was only able to obtain this information, through a fashion, right? This isn't information that is out there, but I'm putting it out there on purpose, hoping that it makes some kind of a difference. Because at the end of the day, I do believe that just the same way as Ghana had every opportunity to give me up in the first place. When I claimed asylum in Ghana, there was every opportunity to use me as a diplomatic bargaining chip with Nigeria if it wanted to. But I know that Ghana is not that kind of country. I know that the Ghanaian government historically has a lot of respect for international law. The Ghanaian government historically has a very strong Pan-Africanist outlook, and the Ghanaian government generally tends to lend itself to being a safe haven for people who are fleeing political persecution from wherever they are in West Africa, in Africa, and in the world at large. There's a very good reason why even during my time in the safe house in Accra, there were quite a number of journalists and whistleblowers who were in similar situations, who were also spending time in Accra. They weren't even just from West Africa or even from Africa. There were people from Europe there as well. That's the kind of stellar reputation that Ghana has when it comes to being a safe haven and an oasis of stability in what is generally still a very unstable area. So I want to urge the Ghanaian president, President Nana Akufo-Addo, the Ghanaian Interior Minister, the chairman of the Ghana Refugee Board, the Ghanaian Immigration Services, all of whom are apparently being linked on by the Nigerian government, to consider not only obviously the fact that I have been obviously granted full refugee status in Ghana, and the Nigerian government is trying to make Ghana blood guilty, right? The Nigerian government is trying to get Ghana to break international law so as to find a way to have me return to Nigeria. And the entire purpose of having me return to Nigeria is to even a personal score, because the person who is apparently the president of Nigeria now, as I'm sure everyone is aware, has a personal bone to pick with me, because I am the journalist who is responsible for essentially destroying whatever false reputation he was trying to build in the international space. I am the journalist who revealed that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a drug trafficker and is a certificate forger, both of which are about to have a significant impact on his continued stay in office. This is an attempt to settle a grudge, using a sovereign country, which is Ghana, as a sort of blunt force tool to get at one individual. This is the exact kind of behavior that the Nigerian state was renowned for during the 80s and the 90s under the military era. And at that time, some of these very people who are in power now, including the supposed president in power right now, did actually find some sort of refuge, safe refuge and haven in Ghana. Right? And I'm sure the Ghanaian intelligence agencies, the Ghanaian security services, the Ghanaian immigration services obviously have records of all of these. Ghana has a long and storied relationship with Nigeria in so many ways. Specifically when it comes to serving as a safe haven for people fleeing political persecution in Nigeria. Without the support and hospitality of Ghana and of the Ghanaian government, a lot of the work I've been able to accomplish over the past few years could never have been done. I might not even be alive. Right? The Ghanaian government has been nothing but honorable in its dealings. So I want to urge the Ghanaian president to resist the temptation to allow an illegitimate Nigerian president to push Ghana into breaking international law. I obviously don't need to mention that there's a law called the Law of Refoulement, which forbids the illegal repatriation of political refugees back to the country that they fled from, where they are going to face, persecution. It's very well known that if for whatever reason I were to be returned to Nigeria, I would not survive it. This is not a secret. So I'm putting this appeal out there publicly. I wasn't going to do this initially, but seeing as it doesn't look like there are that many options left, and the fact of my use of a Ghanaian passport and my permanent residency in Ghana is going to be used, or is the Nigerian government is trying to weaponize that, and Ghana, for all its best efforts, for all its best intentions, might not be able to resist the bullying of the Nigerian government. I'm constrained to put this message out in the public domain, at the very least for record purposes. So if anything were to happen to me, I hope it doesn't happen, but if something were to happen to me, everyone should know who is responsible for it and under what circumstances these things happened. The Ghanaian government, as I said, has been nothing but good to me. The Ghanaian government has behaved excellently, historically and presently. I hope that continues. I hope it's able to resist the tactics of the Nigerian intelligence agencies, the NIA, the DIA, the DSS, which are parts of the erstwhile, the infamous NSO security organization, which used to carry out this exact sort of illegal international activity back in the 80s, because apparently that's the era that we've gone back to now. But in the event that the Ghanaian government isn't able to hold Nigeria off, and my Ghanaian passport is revoked, my Ghanaian permanent residency is revoked, I'm also appealing to international institutions that may be watching this to lean on, whoever can be leaned on to see that this reaches some sort of resolution. And in the event that there is no resolution and I end up becoming a journalist who ends up dead because I did my job, well, I want everyone to know who was responsible. So that's why I'm putting out this appeal. I hope the Ghanaian government does the right thing. I have faith in them. They've always done the right thing more often than not. There are so many more people like myself who have found a safe refuge and a home in Ghana. I think it would be a very sad thing if that reputation that this country has built for itself should be damaged because of an illegitimate president in Nigeria who is essentially trying to personalize the apparatus of state and use it to pursue his personal vendetta around the world. So that's all I have to say this evening. Thank you for listening.